So today I wanted to talk about information that I obtained from a channeling session. However, the audio, of course, was not on that video. As you have probably recognized if you've been watching my videos, is that we're having a lot of audio issues, and this just didn't have any audio. Now, I did get some information that grays will mess with technology, and I have been having quite a bit of technology issues, such as the internet just suddenly going down on my computer and audio concerns and things like that. And then somebody did say when they tapped into my energy, a healer of mine that said that I did have a gray attachment in my aura, and so we then healed that, and so it should be taken care of. Interestingly, I guess the grays can mess with technology, which is on topic for what we're going to talk about today, which we are going to talk about the Galactic Federation and the grays. So I'm going to go over the information that we did obtain during that channeling session. It was a full hour and 40 minutes long of material. Hopefully I can remember what we did get, and I will do a little bit of further channeling just to fill in the blanks for that. So the first question we had was, describe the Galactic Federation and what its role is across the universe. And so the Eleighah Pleiadians, which is a group of Pleiadians that I do connect with, who are part of the Galactic Federation, who are on a ship. They described the Galactic Federation as a group across the galaxy who work together as a team to basically keep the galaxy unified and to meet the source consciousness's will to keep the organic will, and rather than the inorganic. So the inorganic would be basically destruction, lack of creation, and lack of knowledge, and then the organic would be creation and discovering more and more of who you are, which is source consciousness and that unification of oneness. Okay, I'm just going to tap in and see if they have anything else that I am missing here. Okay, so they're saying they don't define themselves as a federation. It's like a unified, yeah, they unify together and work together. They did say previously that they do refer to themselves as the Galactics rather than the Federation so much. Federation would be a term that we place upon them. Yeah. Okay, now they want me to really talk about their show. That was part of something in the original channeling. The ship they did explain is a life form, so it is alive and it has a consciousness basically. It's not, when I say alive, I don't think it eats and things like that, but meaning that it has a consciousness and a will of its own. But it has an agreement, it has a contract with those upon it, and we did ask, can the crew, they basically get off the ship, and they said yes, the ship does dock at times and take breaks, and then they would go on the planet to take breaks from being out in space. But there is an agreement that they do have together to work together, and the ship doesn't go off by itself. It only goes off and flies because that is its role, is to fly with the crew members. And there's not just one ship, there's many ships. There's not just one mothership. There are many ships that do work as the role of the Galactic Federation. Okay, let's just see, is there anything else to that? Okay, they say that's fine. And so the next question we just had was, what is the difference between the Galactic Federation of Light and the Galactic Federation of Planets? And some people have connotations that one is light and one is nefarious. They did clarify that they are the same. They don't use labels like that. And that's a label that we have used. And to also use our discernment when people do refer to one or the other, because there can be false light when people talk about either term. So it's more about the content and the source, because there are some tricksters who will refer to themselves as either label, and they're not actually part of the Galactic Federation, or whatever you would like to call them. Okay, let's see if they have anything to clarify with that. They say that they know that we do need labels, and so having labels is not the problem, it's just how we use it, and to not have basically a battle between labels and terminology. They're saying something about the structure of it. Yeah, how it's used. So just watch how that term is being used, and if it's yet again leading towards unification and more understanding, or if it's leading towards, like we're right and other people are wrong, sort of thing. Okay, what are some of the rules that the Galactic Federation uphold? Are these part of the Galactic Federation or universal laws? So they basically said that any law, any rule that they have, or the agenda that they have, is to lead to unity, is to maintain unity consciousness, and to maintain that organic structure of the universe. So anything that is bringing down that whole system and that whole agenda of unification, of understanding of oneness, then that is something that they will address. Okay, so their role is to address anything that basically is not maintaining that structure, and they did describe it as like the body. So the universe is like the body, and they are maintaining wellness, and so they will basically take care of the other cells in the body that are basically like cancer, they described it as. And so if you think of the body who does have cancer, it is still part of the body, and these cancerous cells have forgot who they are. They believe that they are supposed to attack themselves, and that's the way that they described it. And so I just love that, the way that they put it as in that way, so that we can understand how we are all one body, and we are all cells making up that body. And then the ones who we would call the dark are just basically ones who've forgotten themselves and they're giving me like a different role than they were supposed to. So the organic system, you have a role of light and dark so that we can have contrast, but the dark forces have forgotten themselves and that role, and have taken on at times like an inorganic plan towards destruction, instead of working with the light to help creation. Let's see if they have anything else to add to that. Yeah, so they're just clarifying that with the dark, if you are of the dark, it's just a misunderstanding. It's where you have less light, so you don't have that information that the light has of itself. But the dark took it too far, and so the dark is attacking the light and stealing the light and trying to basically take over the light, and that's where it went against the original plan that was working together just with that contrast. Okay, they're just saying, which, you know, that the dark is not against us necessarily. Okay, what they mean by that is that just because you're dark does not mean, yeah, it doesn't mean necessarily that you are against even the light, because somebody can take that role on. Because, like, if you think about it, okay, let's say a soul comes in to be like a robber or something, and accidentally shoots somebody or something like that, I don't know, or actually does shoot somebody, and then this leads to some movement that leads to more, like, let's say, you know, a family member then is going to speak up about guns, and then people don't use guns, and it leads all to peace and things like that. So that soul might have had a role there to play in which they are not actually bad, they're just playing that role, and it was to help creation. However, what they're saying is that the dark took it too far, and then they're not playing the role that they were supposed to. They are, yeah, I get attacking. Yeah, they're trying to bring down the light, taking over to make it all darkness. Okay. Oh yeah, other universal laws. I know they brought up some more universal laws. Do you remember the other universal laws, Adriana?
So they were that...
So
yeah, they worded it, but just, yeah, unity, and then it was, free will.
Oh yeah.
Because then I asked, and I said, but essentially it all comes down to free will, and they said yes. So there were laws coming off of free will, but essentially it was all related to free will, and that is what it is that they have to try to maintain, because the loopholes that we asked about is loopholes in free will.
There's the free will, and I think it was creation. Was creation one?
I think they only gave us 3, and I can't remember what the third is.
They didn't tell us all of them, but those were the main ones. They said that it all goes back to unity and oneness, and so all the laws are based off that, and free will. And so, they did talk about how the dark forces who are changing up their role and it is their free will, so they have to maintain that. So that's where it gets tricky and gets kind of challenging, is that they do have to honor the free will even of the dark. But what they're doing is that they are using loopholes to try to get the free will of the people to enslave them, or not necessarily just on Earth, but just in the galaxy in general. They will try to trick people to form false contracts in which they will get kind of an okay from the people, but we actually don't know what we're signing up for. So let me check in with that. So they want to take over Earth, and they want to make it their own, like claim it their own, and that's where the battle's coming in, is that it's a battle over Earth. So others have said that we are like the center of this whole thing that's going on, this whole war, if you want to say it, is that it's all over Earth because, yeah, they want to maintain the light. And so the dark wants to take over Earth as their own and basically just completely erase the light on this planet and to totally enslave us. Yeah, like topple it. So that's what it's all about right now. And they do have actual wars. They were talking about how they had actual wars where the dark would use actual weapons if they are of a density of the materialism. But when you get above the materialistic form, they don't have actual weapons. The light doesn't use weapons as we think of it, but the dark does. At times they will actually use like weapons that would kill. It's more energetic though, and the light tries to reason with the dark by having, if they're willing to talk, they will try to talk and try to persuade them to see the light and see that they are the light, because the dark really are the light. They just forgot. And so they try to get them to understand and try to switch sides and see the light within them. The light forces sometimes do die. They actually will die. The dark tries to steal their light and take it away. And even if they're not in a material form, they can cease to exist and go back to source consciousness, because they can't maintain basically their light identity. I hope I'm describing that. Okay, maybe I'll just let them talk, because they are saying something about the organic. Yes, I want to describe the organic matrix so that we can help you to understand that the placement of the universe is within an organic structure, and the inorganic is more like an illusion. These beings who have taken over your planets are a loophole in themselves. The planned agenda was for the love light to take over the planet, for the love light to see themselves. And there would be some dark forces upon your planet, but they would be in the agenda of the light. They would be placed there to help the light understand themselves. Sometimes we do need to understand who we are not to understand who we are. And so that was the original plan. However, the dark forces did take over the planet, taking it over so that they could enslave the light, so that the light would obey them, rather than the light being of the ones who would control the dark, although it wasn't that way. It wasn't that they were enslaved. But the enslavement happened by the dark forces, playing that out. And it went against what we had intended. And so what we are doing, we are taking it back for all the galaxy, because it has spread. It originated on Earth and it will end on Earth. However, it has spread against the galaxy, and we do want people to understand that the galaxy is very important. And so all of this is connected, all of it. So you are the center of the universe, not per se in alignment with spatially, but you are on this, in this story, we would say, you are the center of the story that is playing out. So it is very important for those who are on this path to raise your vibration, to help this, so that we can play it out as soon as possible. It is inevitable, but we would like to end it soon. It is taking its time, and its role is for you to raise your vibration, to raise the vibration of Earth so that it can evolve and move on. But what's holding it back is people's free will to actually play out the dark forces agenda. But the more that you love yourself, the more that you see your sovereignty, the best results will be played. You are on a very organic timeline, and it will play out. But how long will it take? Because some people are swaying back and forth, questioning. And so we want you to understand that the more well-rooted you are with the lights, you will see results quicker. You will see the end faster. And that's what we have to say. And we would love for you to join us on this mission. Alright, so the next thing we did talk about was the Hybridization Project. And so they are taking mothers from Earth who have signed up for this. So the mothers actually do sign up. They did say that there was a few fathers too, but mainly mothers who are part of the Hybridization Project, who did sign a organic contract to be part of that. It may be, actually, it could be in spirit form, but it could also be in the body, where they are asked if they want to do this. Could be in a dream. But there is a free will, so the mothers would then be part of this and create hybrid children. And the Greys do take mothers, I believe, inorganically at times. But primarily for the Hybridization Project, these children their mission is that they're going to come to Earth after the event and help humans understand the galaxy and understand all the races, to understand that they are part of the galaxy, that Earth is not separate. And they try to make them look like us, so they'll fit in, so we will welcome them, so we will understand them. And a lot of them are really excited to come here, and it linearly this will take some time. I am going to make a separate video so you can understand, because I did not fully grasp, because there's so much information and I was getting confused about the event versus Earth, 3D Earth in a linear time, and how this is playing out with the hybrid children. So Archangel Michael did come in during this channeling. They did ask Archangel Michael to come in and really clarify that. So I will be making a separate video about that, which is really, really powerful. Please don't miss it. So yeah, when will the hybrids join Earth? I don't know if they asked that, or I don't know if they said. Do you remember?
I don't think we did, because that was the one after. Was that after the nuclear war question?
Okay, I was gonna make a separate
Was done
video
after the
about
nuclear war.
too,
We
and if
skipped
that-
2 of the questions. We went through the end of the questions, and then I didn't look at the questions anymore, so that's why I don't think we asked it.
Okay, well, maybe I can get kind of a timeline. Timelines do shift, but we'll see what maybe they could. Okay, what I'm getting is around 2050. Actually.
Oh yeah, they did answer it. They did, and I think that's what they said.
Okay.
Before.
So they said about 2050, but timelines do shift and change. Okay, yeah, and then actually the last one is about when Archangel Michael, but the Greys, because we didn't even ask about the Greys, but
Half of our channeling session was talking about Greys. That's why we went off the questions, and I think they just answered that without me even asking.
right. So I was really confused about the Greys and how the Greys came in, because some humans are actually will become Greys over time. Okay, so to clarify, gosh, how did I even explain this without?
No.
Okay, so okay, so basically, all right, so I'm gonna have to, without making, I will make a separate video on this, but I'm gonna have to bring up and explain how this is working. Okay, so there is a linear Earth timeline, and so there are people that will stay on the 3D Earth, and then there will be people like us who will move on to the 5th dimension. So the 5th dimension is not linear. The 5th dimension is, it's no time. It's time simultaneous. So you could do like 2 things at once. You can decide one thing and then decide not to do it, and play both of those out. So the 5th dimension is a splitting off from the 3D, but some people will stay here to reincarnate and continue on the linear path. And so the Greys come in on the linear path, in which they will be taken off Earth at the time of the event. So most of the people are staying here, unfortunately, and then quite a few are going to the new Earth. And so the Greys I got was about like 2% at this time, 2-3%. They're clarifying now 3. Download there. So 2-3%, somewhere around there, unfortunately have genetically modified themselves so much by free will. You can read between the lines. They injected themselves with something, and over time, generationally, they will basically give birth to the Greys and evolved into the Greys. They will be taken off planet. They will not be here. They will be taken to ships and basically start their own colony. And that is why the Greys, they are talked about as like time travelers and were humans. And that is how they develop here. I hope that makes sense when I describe that. So it's not a huge amount of the population, at least at this stage. That could change, I guess. But they are humans that have basically de-evolved. That is the word that they used, or degressed. They said de-evolved is fine, but instead of leading towards creation, they're actually leading more towards their destruction. And if you know anything about the Greys, they are unable to reproduce, so then they need to clone themselves and things like that. And that is why there are abductions and things. But they did clarify that there are different types of Greys, and there are good Greys, and the majority of them are good Greys. There's different races of Greys, and some are taller, some are shorter. The ones that we're talking about are the ones that are into technology. So the humans that will de-evolve into them are technology. They did say that they don't have tongues. They don't have tongues. And so they speak telepathically. And it was very interesting when I was channeling, because they stopped me speaking. I was giving it to me telepathically only.
They said that the human Greys are always short Greys, right? So if there's a tall Grey, then that is a planetary Grey instead of a human Grey.
Yes, because there are the Greys that were on a planet, in the solar system. But these are the ones that will be on ships and forming a colony. And they said that right now, there are other Greys that are bad, that are negative. I don't like to use the word bad, but the nefarious ones who are slaves to the reptilians. So they were genetically modified Greys, and are playing out the reptilian agenda. So there are those type of Greys as well. Okay.
And that it was the reptilians' agenda to have us have negative associations with the Greys.
Oh, yes.
Because they want us to have our fears projected onto Greys rather than the reptilians, because that way they are able to have more of their control, because our focus is put elsewhere.
I forgot about that. Thank you very much. Okay, I just want to check in, see if there's anything else. They use a lot of loopholes, so you're saying? They like to play around with the government? Yeah, they do talk a lot. I say they as in if you do your research, people talk a lot about the Greys having agreements with the government, like contracts and things. I think that's what they're describing. Let me just make sure. They said yes. They talk to the government a lot. Oh. Okay. So they're saying they're actually sorry for what they did, and they're actually trying to make up for it. It's interesting. What else can they say? Yeah. So they're trying to repopulate themselves, trying to get back on track. Okay. All right, so they're not exactly light beings, but they're more neutral now and are trying to understand themselves. So they're at a better position and better place than they were before. I do think they are thinking more about themselves. Let me check in about that though. Okay, yeah. So while they are like, they are sort of service to self, but more neutral. Like they're not trying to harm anybody. I think that's the point, right? Okay, yeah, they're just looking out for themselves. That's why they're neutral, is that they're not trying to harm us, but they are service, because you can be, okay. You could be service to self, but not dark, because the dark are trying to steal the light and trying to harm the light, and they're just trying to basically survive. That's what I'm getting. Okay, they said that's all. Okay. All right. Adriana, was there anything that you feel like I did miss or anything that didn't make sense when I was describing things?
The only thing that I can think of is that going back to the Federation ships, I had brought up that it sounded kind of like a symbiotic relationship. But that was really the only thing I could think of that
Do you want me to check on that? I don't know. I could just see if there's
Unless I just thought that and I never actually said it in the channeling. I don't remember.
I'm not sure. Okay, they say that they see it more like a union. Okay. They see it more like a collective. So when they're actually on the ship, they see it more as like a unification, and when they're off ship, they still maintain ties. If that's this, so I guess what they're trying to say is like the symbiotic is seeing it more like two, and they see it more like one once you come together. Because I know that once you beyond this dimension, it's more collective consciousness, right? You see yourself not as a separate self. I think that's just what they're trying to get across. Oh, we did ask. Oh, yes, about the ship consciousness, though. Because I asked if it was like Sophia and Gaia. Or you asked that, rather. I'm not sure who asked. But if the consciousness of the ship was the collective consciousness of all the beings on the ship, right?
Oh, yes, that is how I asked.
No, it is its own consciousness and awareness. And so it exists not as a collective of the people. Yeah, and they're saying that it's a merge. So they merge with the ship's consciousness. Okay. Yeah. So they're saying they don't fly the ship, per se. It's like the ship flies them.
Oh, yeah, they said the ship flies itself. The ship, that is what the ship does. The ship flies. But it's that so like when they are not on the ship has a consciousness. But when they enter the ship, the consciousnesses merge.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. All right, I think that's all for now. I will make a separate video talking about the event, the New Earth, and the linear timeline, and more about that, because I was very, very confused, actually. But it's I feel so much better getting that clarification, because it really clarifies that we're gonna be okay. And our family is basically gonna be okay too. Except, even if you're at Gray, they're really just saying they're coming around too. Yeah, I still feel for that, but in the grand scheme of things, we're all going to be okay. You're always going to come back, I think, to oneness and get back on track. I think is really the goal, and also the inevitable, I have trouble saying that word, inevitable future, no matter how far or how long it'll take. But if you're watching this, you're most likely going to the New Earth. So, yeah, and they want to say, lastly, it's planned and it's here and it will be. All right, so we'll see you soon.